Okay, welcome to the Ken 7 podcast. Today, joining me, I have veterans of 16 European Cup finals and 11 FA Cup finals. And joining me are Eddie Jones, Steve Jones and Paul Moran. Boys, welcome. We've got a lot to talk about. Obviously, it's been a whirlwind 24 hours and a lot of emotions, high, low, and then we've had a resolution. So, Paul, I'm going to start with you. I mean, what's your reaction to I think rather than talk about what's actually happened, let's just concentrate on what's happened in the last 24 hours and where we are now. What's your reaction to what's happened? Obviously, they withdrew last night, and then obviously we've got a video from John Henry this morning.
I'm absolutely astonished that the owners, which it appears to be completely owner-driven, this European Super League, the joining of it and any participation in it has been fully through the owners, and how they could do something like that without speaking to anyone on the management staff or the playing staff. I'm not talking about fans here because you can get carried away with fan involvement, but certainly it appears the players don't know about it. The manager didn't seem to know that it had reached that point. And the fact that, you don't want to just criticise people out of hand, but how the owners can get into this position again, if you like, with something that's really antagonised the fans, who are after all the ones who, under normal circumstances, are giving the team the support they need, which you can see this season we've not had, and where we are in the league and how we played in some games. I think the support's all important with us. But I'm just baffled by it, to be honest. A lot of people said to me, what would your dad think? And obviously the politics was a vastly different situation. My dad finished in 98. So there was nothing like this ever went on there. I have no idea how my dad would have reacted to it, to be honest. But decisions being taken above boardroom level, that the players and staff are not being a major decisions as well. It's baffling to me. And he's done this heartfelt, inverted commas, apology again, which he's done, I think, 3 or 4 times now about various issues. But if they go, it's who you get in and whether you're in the same position. There's a lot of other clubs posturing about who weren't invited. I'm not mentioning the local one, I'll say Leeds. But Leeds are making such a fuss about this. I don't know why they're making such a fuss about it. Other than they were playing us on Monday night and they took the opportunity to get a few brownie points with the rest of the league, if you like. But it's more baffling than anything else. It's an amazing situation. I can't really see how you say the club, you say the blanket phrase of the club. This has all come from the owner and whoever's advising him, and whoever's advising them clearly have got no idea about the heritage of the club or what the fans would have reacted to that. Now, again, it's not kicking us out the league, which I think a lot of people think it meant we wouldn't play in the Premier League. It was a new league that excluded Leicester, Brighton, people, Newcastle United. It was going to be a midweek league, but obviously if it wasn't sanctioned by UEFA, you could get kicked out the Premier League as well. So I do understand that side of it, but I think a lot of people are going on the basis we were leaving the Premier League, and that was never part of it, as far as I'm aware. But the fact that it's such a half-arsed thing is what's caused all the trouble. So,
I mean, Steve, it's interesting what Paul says there about consulting the fans. Now, Tony Barrett was obviously a celebrated journalist, worked at the Times, worked at the Echo. He was brought in as a go-between to judge fan opinion, and he's on the staff now. I can't imagine that he was even consulted beforehand. Is that how you read the situation as well?
I think it's pretty clear to me, Gav, that if Jurgen Klopp didn't know anything about this, Tony Barrett wouldn't know anything about it either, to be honest. I mean, it's been an absolutely bizarre 48 hours, hasn't it? I think that the interesting thing now is that the genie's out the ball on this. I don't think it really came as any particular surprise to any of us. I mean, it's been talked about for some time. It was just the guise that this Super League, if you like, was going to take place. And I think most right-thinking football fans, whether they be Liverpool fans, United fans, Chelsea fans, whoever it may be, would not want to play in a competition that was effectively a closed shop. I mean, how do you keep people's dreams going when you won't let them in at the top level? I mean, it's just absolutely ludicrous. But I think the thing is what now happens from here, because it's now not going to go back to where it was before. There's an awful lot of questions need to be answered. If you go onto forums at the moment, there's all sorts of thoughts about what we're going to do now, what the ownership model is going to look like in the future. There's lots of talk of the 50% plus one, which is the German model on it. I guess that the problem that we've got at Liverpool Football Club at our level is that if, let's say, a situation where FSG decided out, they want out, it's not working out as they planned, who's going to buy us? I mean, there's only three real options, I suppose. It's either somebody who wants to make a lot of money, somebody who has made a lot of money, maybe through dubious circumstances, and is looking for acceptance, or some form of state who has got dubious human rights issues, and they're looking for acceptance. So it's a real interesting one, I think, Gav, as to how it goes forward from here.
Actually, Dad, I'll come to you. The point. I mean, I watched Jamie Carragher the other day, and he was obviously very angry, wasn't he? And he was saying, these owners will be run out of the club within a week if they get rid of Jurgen Klopp and all that sort of thing. And that all sounds great on the telly, but logically that can't happen. There's a club there that's worth £2 billion. Or if we were to believe the price that they've just been invested on, it was 500 million for 10%. So that would value it at £5 billion, if my maths is correct. Steve will probably tell me better. But you just can't get rid of owners like that. It doesn't work like that. We're stuck with them, and from John Henry's little video this morning, it seemed very heartfelt, but he just didn't sound like he was going anywhere. I mean, what's your idea, Dad, on the position of the future of FSG in the club?
I'm quite amazed that people at that level of business have fell into what basically is a trap, and I can't believe that they didn't really see that. I mean, when you look at them, they've got to where they are, obviously by being clever businessmen, and yet, really, to a man, they must have people who are advising them. They must have people who write their scripts and tell them what to say, and are giving them advice all the time, and actually walked into it without actually seeing it. I think that all owners have to make money. I would think that the Americans, they really didn't have anything to do with British football before, and seen an opportunity. I think they bought Liverpool after the Hicks and Gillette fiasco, and they bought them, I think, off the bank, who Hicks and Gillette owed the money to, 245 million with maybe some costs. So probably 300 million, and now Liverpool are worth, 2 billion? Something like that. And I'm surprised that people who have got that acumen actually didn't see that coming. The other thing, I think I've actually read what John Henry has said, and I think he's really eating humble pie. Whoever wrote it for him has written it. Probably it's a humble statement. He's taken ownership of that it was his decision, his problem, and is very, very sorry. And also, he calls the Liverpool Football Club your club,
which I thought was very clever.
Which is clever. So, if I'm cynical, I think it's a very. I think he must look at it and think, we've just got this wrong. But I'm surprised that people at that level have got it so wrong.
Paul, you just on what my dad said there. I mean, isn't it giving them too much credit to say that there's advisors that have advised them wrong? I mean, personally, I just think that this was something they wanted to do, and they were like, we're doing it regardless. There might be some fallout, but we're just doing it, and we'll deal with the fallout, and it'll get quieter as more details come out. I mean, what's your thought on that?
Well, the thing is, your dad said, it's if someone's advising them, but at the end of the day, John Henry's in charge of the decision making, so the buck stops with him, as I would think it would with any major corporation. He can't just say, "Well, hang on, it's not my fault because so and so told me it was a good idea." But he must have made that decision. Finally, the name on the bottom of the bit of paper must have been his, because no one can do it for him. But it's just the fact that it's I don't know. I know you were getting us on. I've been thinking about this morning when I've been out on my walk, of how to try and talk about it, if you like. It's just a situation that normal members of the public, you don't know what's gone on behind the scenes. You don't know what the arrangement's been between the 12 clubs, really. You don't know what he's thought would happen, because he doesn't explain that today. He didn't say, well, what I thought would happen would be this. And the other lad's supposed to have done that email, isn't he? Yesterday, is he the financial director?
I think he's the CEO on the UK.
Yeah, it's good for the club. Everyone get behind it.
Yeah.
Well, if they could come out and explain why they thought it was good for the club, whereas everyone else thinks it's not a good thing. But it seems to me it's partly as well that they were trying to get this Champions League thing changed. Now, whether they're brave enough to do that, and then, they say, well, UEFA will give more to the bigger clubs in this revamped Champions League, where apparently you can qualify for it if you've got a good record in it over the previous 20 years, or however it works. They're talking about you don't have to qualify. Right. And that's what the big teams are worried about. Because you see us this season, there's a distinct possibility we're not going to qualify for the Champions League next year. It was funny because my wife's arranged us to go away in October. And I said, it's up to Scotland. I said, well, have you done that? Because we don't know who we'd be playing. And then she said, you don't know if you'll be in it. Oh, Christ, yeah, no. Just, it doesn't strike you like that. She's made the plan to go to Scotland without knowing the fixtures in Scotland as well, which is ridiculous. We go to Aberdeen. There mightn't even be a game there when they're there, but that's a different matter. But the fact that they've just gone ahead with this, and, as your dad said, you'd love to know what the advice he's been given has been. But at the end of the day, he's top of the tree there. He's the one who makes the decisions. Because I'm sure if there was a right decision, he wouldn't be coming on saying, well, actually, he told me to say this. So if it's a wrong decision, which is what he's now said it is, it's down to him. But who takes over? I always remember a few years ago, we were told when we hadn't won the league for about 28 years, it was at the time, we were having a discussion after a match once, and I just said, I don't care at the moment if Pol Pot took us over, as long as we win the league. But again, that's, it's taking it to a massive extreme that you wouldn't want to. We're talking about City with their owners, with the, as your dad mentioned, the human rights things going on in them countries. But City are going to win the league this year. So if we were going to win the league at this point in time, there mightn't be such a fuss made about it if we're 20 points clear like we were last year.
Yeah.
But you just, it is a baffling thing for me. It's a very difficult thing to know how to read. But at the end of the day, it's his problem because he's signed the papers.
If you're enjoying this video so far, please show your support for the Ken 7 channel by subscribing, clicking the like button, and also clicking the notifications button as well to get future broadcasts. If you could also share the video on your Twitter and Facebook account, that will show YouTube's algorithm that you like our content. Have you heard about Ken 7 merchandise? The link is in the description of this video. We have premium fanwear for fans covering Liverpool, Celtic and Scotland, and it's fanwear for young and old, so we have t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, caps, mugs, you name it, we've got it. Just something else to remember, every purchase that is made on our website, we donate to the Marina Dalglish Appeal, so you're helping a great cause as well. Steve, what do you think? What do you think they thought the response was going to be? I wonder whether they thought, well, all the fans will be behind it because they'll have the security of knowing that we're going to be in this big competition every year. So why would they not be into it? Why would they not be supportive of it? Because what we're actually giving them is football on the biggest stage without the risk of not being in that competition. And what's actually happened is, football without risk is actually rubbish. It's not entertainment. It's not. We all love football because the highs and the lows. Now, we hate the lows. Obviously, we get upset. It affects your emotional state. You kick the dog and all that sort of stuff. But without that, it isn't the game that we remember. Do you think that they thought we'd be happy?
I think what they've done, Gav, is they've actually shown tremendous naivety. And I think that there's a total disconnect, really, between owners and fans. I mean, I watched your podcast with Paul Dalgleish, and I learned a lot from that, because I really didn't understand how the American model worked. And Paul was making really good points about it not really being competition as such, it being entertainment. And at MSL level, it is a closed shop, and everything operates under that. And the way that value increases, I thought was really interesting. I guess on the other side of the coin, it is that, hey, that they've been with us now since 2010, 2011. They should really understand some of the strong feeling that Liverpool fans have. I mean, they made a right mess up of the £70 tickets, didn't they? And I was one that walked out on that particular occasion, and it changed. They made a right mess of the furlough scheme because they just didn't understand what, us fans who've been going to the game, in my case, since 1963 when I went to the first one, they just don't understand that it's in our hearts, this club. This is more important than money. And I think you're absolutely right. I don't think that we would really be interested in achieving something that we haven't actually worked for. Our club, we achieve things by hard work, endeavour, skill, talent, not because it's handed to us on a plate. I mean, quite frankly, I think that a lot of the game works against us, so we do it in spite of the opposition. So I just think there's a total disconnect. I'm just really surprised, as Ed said there, that businessmen at that level just don't understand. They maybe call us customers. I hate that term. But they don't understand what their customers are thinking and feeling. It's weird.
You'd think that be. I mean, like I said, I mentioned the Tony Barrett thing, but you got the Spirit of Shankly there. I don't know, Paul. You might have or Steve, you might have an idea about this. They set up a group that was supposed to work in conjunction with the club to discuss things like disability and LGBTQ and all that sort of stuff. And has that been disbanded? Did that get disbanded last season?
No idea, to be honest. I'd love to answer it. I don't know. I know Tony Barrett used to be on Twitter and you could get in touch with him through that, and then he abandoned that a couple of years ago because he was getting too much grief. But in the position he's in, he's the one who's got to not take the grief personally, of course, or any abuse to him personally, but he's the one who's getting asked questions by fans, which I thought he was the fan liaison officer. But I've not heard him mentioned until today for about 2-3 years.
Yeah. So
I don't know what he's doing. Now, he may well be doing a good job behind the scenes, but it's very difficult to get in touch with him now.
Yeah.
I think these guys, Paul, have got quite a difficult job, actually, because you're absolutely right. They take loads of abuse from fans, and it's like trying to satisfy everybody. I mean, Graham Smith, who had some capacity on a fans liaison, I think he's vice chairman of Spirit of Shankly now. I mean, he withdrew from it, I think, because he just didn't want to take it anymore.
I think for those sort of people who are in that position, to a certain extent, the club and the top wigs at the club, I mean, I'll come to you on this, Dad. They're not getting listened to. So the club say, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think the fan reaction will be? And they then obviously go back to them and go, they're not going to be happy. And then the club do it anyway. So what's the point of them being in that position?
I'm just, as I said before, I'm just amazed that people in of that level of ability, you would say, obviously because they've made a lot of money, just don't know. I mean, the other thing that I don't understand, I've seen lots of fans, I've read fans forums, and I wrote it in my blog for the Kenny 7 blog, and I said that they're saying that they're not going to support Liverpool anymore. Some of our supporters have said they're not going. If this happens, I'm not going to support Liverpool. Hang on. I've been supporting Liverpool for 70 years. And when my father clipped me round the ear because my uncle took me to Goodison Park as my first game. And he said, don't ever go there again, which I pretty well didn't. So I've been a Liverpool supporter. I lived right opposite the ground, right opposite the Kop. And used to watch, in those days, I used to watch the players come out from Anfield after training and get the bus. No cars, get the bus into town to make me get the train over to Birkenhead because they lived in a posher part of Liverpool. So it's in your DNA. You just don't switch off and say, well, the owners have done that. I'm not going to support Liverpool anymore. It's in the blood. Anfield's it's in your soul. You can't just switch off like that.
We'll put
so
it that
I don't
way,
understand these fans who want to switch off.
Well, say that, Eddie. Say someone says tomorrow, right, everyone can go to match Saturday if you got your season ticket from last season. I'll be there.
Yeah.
You'd be there.
We'd all be there.
Exactly. Everyone would be. I mean, I talked to Gavin a bit about this on other podcasts. Some of the things people who actually put their names to it and put it in writing of that's it now, I'm never supporting the club again. I was actually at one point on, what day is it now, Monday night, I was taking screenshots on my phone so you can mention to people in a few months possibly, when we're in a game starting next season, we're playing Everton in September. I'm looking forward to the game. So you said you weren't going anymore. And then their argument would be, well, we didn't follow it through. So, well, you're still saying, it's like people who didn't want us to win on Monday. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's
when we played Blackburn and United could have won the league in 94 or 95, whatever, that season. I wanted us to beat Blackburn that day. I know people are turning up round us with Blackburn scarves on. There was murder by us in the main stand because there's people who sat there all the time. I said, we've got to beat Blackburn, and then if United win, that's down to them. But I don't want Blackburn to beat us today. But there was a few, there were scuffles in the stand by us because people were supporting Blackburn. When Shearer scored, they're up clapping and cheering. I said, what are you doing? It's a goal against your team. I never want us to get beat, no matter if it helps Everton, if it helps Man City. I never want us to not win a game.
Absolutely.
But
thankfully,
where
West Ham did the job anyway.
Honestly.
So what are your feelings about the club? Obviously, you guys have, you've been supporting the club for a long time. What are your feelings about the club today? And in light of this, as compared to back in the day when the club was run by, it was very much more a community-run club by owners who had an affinity to the club. I mean, Paul? Let's come to you. What's your feeling on the club today? Do you recognise it? Does that have an effect on how you feel about the club?
Not game wise or supporting the club. In fact, in some ways, with some of the idiotic comments that have been getting made by fans of other teams recently, it makes you want to support them more if that's possible, or certainly be more bullish about your support for them. Because sometimes you think, well, this hasn't been a good season results wise, but you still it's people when they say, like, as you say, if you don't want us to win or something, the club are vastly different from when my dad was there, which football's vastly different. My dad was there for 6 years of the Sky era from 92, which is, that's been conveniently forgotten now. The teams that were invited to go onto the Sky platform in 92 are some of the ones now saying this is awful, but they crapped on all the lower teams in 92, as it like Liverpool did because we joined it, but we were in the top division then. But you got the likes of Oldham and that. They were in that first season in the top flight. If they got asked to, not Oldham particularly, but any team who's from the top flight who got asked to go into this, whether they'd have gone into it, none of them have been asked. There's no proof who's been asked other than the 6 who did. But it's a totally different world now. It's like when people say to me, what would your dad think? I really don't know. Because it's such a different world. It's like football's totally different. But then if you watch old games on the telly, it's the same on the pitch. It's everything else has changed for me. But that's my opinion on it. Like, it's not the same as it was 20 years ago, even now.
What do you think, Steve?
Building on, I suppose, on what Paul said there, and Ed, you said as well. I'll be honest, there's been times that I've felt like walking away, particularly under Hicks and Gillette. That was the low point for me. And I wouldn't, for the simple reason if I walk away, they've stolen the club from me.
Mm.
You know, what was my dad's club and Ed, my brother's club and my eldest brother's club, and no longer with us. They've stolen that away, and I can't let them do that.
Mm.
So, you know, yeah, we're not. I mentioned the word customers. We're not customers. We're hostages, really, aren't we? You know, we can't walk away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the customer thing annoys me so much, because a customer can go and buy a different product. Mm. I can't decide one day to go and support Everton or Wolves or Villa or whatever it may be, because you just don't do things like that if you're a fan. Sure, I'd maybe like it back to the dreamy days of 1977 when we won that first European Cup, and Ed, I was with you in Rome.
Yes,
it was fantastic. It was the best game I've ever been to. But as you rightly say, Paul, it's changed now. You know, it's moved on, and you've got to adapt with that and move with the times. I just accept that.
What about you, Dad? Do you think that this instance now, or the way things are run now, has that had any effect on the way you feel about the club?
No, not at all. And as you know, Gav, I was at Hillsborough on that day of the match. I still feel that, and tried, the people we were with was with an off-duty policeman, Liverpool policeman, and a doctor. And but those days, everyone at that time, obviously the Margaret Thatcher era, anyone who went to a football match was a hooligan. We went, and it was a lot of people's fault. It wasn't, just the police's fault. We went and asked the policeman, could we go down on the pitch? I was lucky, I was in the stand. Could we go down on the pitch and help out and help them out? And 96 of our fellow fans didn't come back from that. And that's, you just don't sweep that away. What a great thing. In all this has happened, what a great thing that Harvey Elliott, I don't know whether you've seen the pictures of him taking a wreath, and placing it there. If ever the lad is gonna, what I wanted to make it, get emotional now, with my club, it would be him, because he seems to have what we all have in our hearts, in your DNA. You can't just throw it away.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't watch any other team unless they play a Liverpool Football Club. Yeah. I don't watch internationals. I only watch Liverpool. I'm only interested in Liverpool. That may be boredom for some people, but that's all I'm interested in. Liverpool Football Club.
I get that. Well, I think that's pretty clear. Before we wrap up, I've got all this experience in front of me. Do you know what I mean? And like I said at the beginning, 16 European Cup finals, 11 FA Cup finals. Have you got any stories? I know you have, Dad, because you've got some stories. Which I've probably all heard, but have you got any stories of anything that happened? I know there was a story of you meeting Shankly outside the stadium. What was that? And Paul, see if you've got anything.
And Ed, you were with me as well, and it was really strange. I mean, Rome 77, not only my first European Cup final, the first time I'd ever been abroad, quite honestly, never been on an aeroplane. So it was a big special occasion for me. So we get up to the Stadio Olimpico, and we're just sort of milling round, and it's a beautiful balmy evening, and all of a sudden Bill Shankly is stood there, and somehow he became separated from the official party, and he was outside the stadium, and they wouldn't actually let him in.
Talking to the fans, he was.
Yeah, and so, hey, this man is a legend. You let this guy in, and eventually
you know who he is.
It did happen, but I've got a beautiful piece of memorabilia from that, because before they let him in, he actually autographed the back of my match ticket, and that is the best piece of memorabilia that I've got to this day. I treasure it.
Brilliant. Dad, have you got anything come to mind?
I've got a special thing. You're doing this for Kenny Seven. I mean, of all the players that I've seen, I've been lucky enough to be his friend. But of all the players I've ever seen, and this sums him up. He came and see me, and he said, "I said, how you doing? Okay, fine. We're having a chat." He said, "We played at Wembley, and he was in London." He said, "We went to a concert. It was mine's gone now. We went to concert to see Elton John. Elton John coming." So he said, "Yeah, we went backstage, and he put a bit of a party on for us." And I said, "So the team, we went, and the team went." And I said, "Oh, what was he like?" He said, "He was great. He's just dead ordinary, like me and you." And I looked at, and I went, "Do you realise you're Kenny Dalglish?" And he doesn't. I mean, that sums up Kenny Dalglish.
Brilliant. Paul, you got anything?
Just a couple of quick ones. One was Rome '84, which was a vastly different experience to Rome '77, for obvious reasons when you're playing the home team. But at the end, our tickets were, the Liverpool fans were behind the goal at one end, obviously, but our tickets were in the corner bit. We had tickets, so there wasn't as many Liverpool fans in the corner. So it was a little bit safer there because you were further away from the Roma fans who were on the left-hand side trying to fire rockets and stuff into the Liverpool fans. But anyway, the end of the game comes, the players are going around with the European Cup. My dad's walking around with them, but he actually seen me in the stand where we were. So my dad's waving the European Cup and pointing up at us. So if you can't get much better than that.
Brilliant.
Other than the other quick one was him leading them out in '92 at Wembley against Sunderland. Because there's a picture, if you Google Ronnie Moran Wembley, there's a picture of my dad waving up towards the crowd, and he's actually waving at where we were. He was waving at us on that picture. So him leading them out at Wembley was good as well. So them two, seeing us in row.
How old were you then when he led you the team out when he was manager?
30.
So you were fully aware that was a special moment.
Oh no! Well, we didn't know he was going to do it. It was Souness wasn't well, as you know, with the heart operation, and there was still talk of Souness was going to lead them out because that's not stressful as such. Yeah. But then on the day, we were down the other end. We were at the end where Michael Thomas and Brushy scored to the side of the goal. Obviously, we were on the right-hand side of the pitch. The tunnels away out to our right. And we just looking, and someone went, because there's no screens then either. So as the teams were coming out, you hear the band going, and we said, they're coming out now. And then we're looking, and we just seen it was my dad in front because we seen the sun shining off his head. So we knew it was him. And then he come onto the pitch, and then he knew where we were sitting in the ground in the rough area. So he looked over and he seen us.
Brilliant.
So them two will do me.
Lovely stuff. Well, listen, boys, I've really enjoyed it.
Listen, Gav, I had a bad story. 84 final in Rome. I went with the families of our players, and my job was to look after Souness's dad. As we were walking to the ground, the opposing fans were throwing bricks down on us, and I pushed Souness's dad, who was in his 70s then, into the police van, and the bricks were bouncing off the top of it, and the police, Italian police, actually threw us out.
Wow.
Of the van.
Well, thanks for us ending on a really bright note there, Dad.
Sorry, mate.
Appreciate that.
We won, though. We won it.
We did win.
We did it, yeah.
Lovely stuff, boys. Well, listen, I've really enjoyed it, and hopefully we'll do it again. Thanks very much to you, Dad, Steve, Paul. Thanks very much for being involved. And if you watch this on YouTube, give us just click that subscribe button and like the content as well. Thanks very much. I'll see you again. Cheers.
Okay.